You know, every year here at Archer's Garage, I go through a lot of machines, and a lot of these machines need carburetors. And for the past year or so, I've been working with HIPA carburetors, and I have to say that they've actually been very good to me, and so far they've been working very good. Now, why would you need a carburetor? Well, stay tuned, and we'll talk about that a little bit, what some of the symptomology might be, when you might need a carburetor, and a few simple tests you can do to see if it's really the issue is a carburetor. Now, the physical condition, you know, if the machine is old, maybe you picked it up from someplace and it's really old, and everything looks really crusty, there's a very good chance you're going to need a carburetor. Mostly because water will get in, there's alcohol in the fuel, it's going to get into the carburetor. If you found water in your gas, most likely you're going to need a carburetor. So that's one condition. But the general run-of-the-mill is water gets in over the course of the winter. I'm having a winter right now that's extremely wet. Somehow it gets into the gas tank. The alcohol in the gas itself is going to wick in and pull water in from the atmosphere. A lot of gas tanks are actually vented to atmosphere, so they're going to pull water in. And that water is going to get down to that carburetor at some point, and it's just going to wreak havoc with the metals inside the carburetor. So at that point, when you go to start it up, you know, first thing in the season, you're going to have a lot of problems if it runs at all. Now, if you spray a little bit of starting fluid in, or maybe you put a little bit of carburetor cleaner of some kind in there, you stick it down the throat of the carburetor, maybe pull the air cleaner off and do it that way, and she kicks and runs only while, you know, this stuff is in there, and then shuts off. That's an excellent indication that you need a carburetor, because you know it's going to run, right? You have spark. You seem to have, you know, everything else you need. The motor fires over and it runs for the length of time while you're spraying either a carburetor cleaner in or a good, you know, starting fluid in there. So that's going to tell you right there that something has gotten into the carburetor. It's generally water. A lot of times it's from the alcohol and the fuel. So that's really your first thing. Now, when I do tune-ups, I kind of go off the deep end. I go over everything. And if you're going to do a tune-up and clean up your machine, now is a really good time to do it. I just wanted to show you fellas what was in the kit. Now, when I got the carburetor, right, in this box here, and we'll take a peek in there in a minute, but it was wrapped up in a bag. So we were in a bag, very nice, and then there was more bubbly wrap in there. And this is one of the other carburetors that was an original carburetor. I have others, but I threw them out. This one ran, and it ran fairly well, but it just didn't deliver the performance. Like, it wasn't running right. So I put another carburetor on it, and I was glad I did. And that's a different video. So in the kit, you actually, you know, depending upon the model number that you buy, right? But this kit came with everything, and I'll show you a bit more about the carburetor itself. So we got a nice fuel filter, appropriate for this style. This is a Tecumseh carburetor, and this particular carburetor this is a push prime. And you get a nice hose, right, to replace that hose that usually goes bad. You get your gasket so that you can put, because it comes on a manifold. On this particular one, it mounts to the manifold, which then goes over to the engine block. So you get your gasket for that. And then, of course, a couple of hose clamps. That's appropriate for, although these are not hose clamps for fuel. That would be the only recommendation I would say is if they wanted to add in hose clamps, I would put in the hose clamps for the fuel line. This is a hose clamp that's used for this line here, which is really it's not really, it's kind of like a vacuum line, but it's a push prime line. Let's just take a look at the carburetor real quick. A couple of things I just wanted to show you. Now, you could get one where it's just a carburetor, and they have also a kit with a plug, and check your application and everything. Now, this carburetor, this is one of the ones I really like, and again, this is Tecumseh, so yours is going to may vary. But this one has here an idle adjustment screw, so that's your idle adjustment. So this is an idle mixture screw here, so this way you can tune the idle circuit. This is actually what's known as the curb idle adjustment right here, and that sets the throttle angle. So that's your minimum amount of air and throttle angle, and that's a separate procedure. But I left it set from the factory. I had no issue. But if you want to raise the low idle or curb idle, or we'll just say idle, right? But it's the idle of the machine, very low, the lowest RPM. You would set it here, and then you would adjust this screw for the best mixture, what we call lean best. Over here is just the pickup tube for the primer. And another nice thing is it has the valve over here, so that's actually really nice, right? Because you can purge any fuel. So if you have a shut-off valve, at the end of the season, you shut the valve off, you run the engine out of fuel, and then you press this in here, and it'll purge any additional fuel residue in the bottom of the float pole. And that way, you shouldn't have any issues come the next season. So it gets out all the remaining fuel. And then down here, this is your high speed adjustment. So you can get in there and you know, finely tune the mixture, the jet actually that's mixing. It's called an emulsion tube. We'll get a closer look at that in a minute. So you can adjust this so that you get the best speed possible at the high RPM once the governor and everything is adjusted. That way you're not too rich, you're not too lean. Now, I loosened this up a little bit. I just wanted to show you. So these are all brass components. It's very nice. Now, personally, I don't like these new gaskets. Everybody seems to be using them. I don't like them, okay? So, you know, if you can reuse your old gasket, use this, put the carburetor on. You shouldn't need to take it apart when it's new, but just to show you, I find that they're not very reusable. So it's got a nice bowl. It's a steel bowl. On a lot of these were aluminum, and the bowls, you know, they go bad. They just do. You can see here that it's actually parallel, and maybe I'll show you that in the other camera as well. So the float adjustment is preset. It's got a very nice gasket here, and then we're just going to take this out. I just wanted to show you. Try and get a close-up of it. So it has a brass seat. And I know it's a little shiny, you know, cameras. Let me turn the brightness down a little bit. All right, so it's got a brass seat right here. And then this is the emulsion tube inside, and that's brass as well. I like that, okay? That is a thing that I like. And then there is a rubber, silicone rubber style tip up here. I don't know if it's Viton, but it's designed for, you know, alcohol fuel. Let me put this together real quick, and I want to show you. The float is already preset, but it is something you do want to check. Well, the construction of the carburetor is very good. And one last thing. So again, this is Tecumseh. I'll switch to the other camera. And it does have the mounting bores or bosses here that are drilled and tapped. And that's for bracketry, like that, okay? Or sometimes also in snowblowers, it holds the front cover assembly on. It's what's known as the air box. Very important. In this case here, that's just a choke adapter bracket that runs the chokes and holds the cable. Let me go to the other view, and I want to show you that that's set right. So it should be parallel. And it basically is, meaning that the float top or bottom here, you can see bottom of the float, should be parallel to the gasket surface. And sometimes they're up a little high. If it's up a little high, I like that. In other words, in this direction. I kind of like that. This way you won't have any flooding. Let's just put this on real quick. And then lastly, so this is the fulcrum area, okay, where it pivots, and the flat of the float bowl goes over that area. And then a nice brass assembly here. And I'll just put this back together again and tighten it up so that I know it's good to go. Now, again, things vary a little bit depending, but they have a couple of different kits, but you're going to want to check your application, and the pictures are generally very good. Okay, so not only model number and all that, but check your application and then look at the picture, and you can even measure. They give you measurements of bolt centers and openings, and you know, the bore itself. So just to make sure, just be careful, look closely, and you should be good to go. Brass over here, right? It's either brass or it's a steel coating, and I think a brass coating on steel. And same thing over there. I can't tell you if it's actually brass or if it's a coating. Same thing like this. This is coated as well with a type of a brass screw or a coated screw. So either way, right, what you're seeing is, I know this is definitely brass, but it's well plated and it seems to be well made. And as long as you get yours in good shape and it was assembled properly, you should be good to go. So hopefully that was helpful. So if you're looking for a carburetor, or honestly, just about anything else, they have a lot of stuff. Go check out their website. Links will be in the description. And yeah, give HIPA a try. So far, so good. Like I said, I've been working with them for about a year, and I haven't had any issues yet. For aftermarket stuff, they might be a good choice for you guys and a good fit for whatever it is you're doing. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for stopping in Archer's Garage.